We are running out of time. How many times have I found myself saying this over recent years? But I would hope that we might strive for an age of reverence. Reverence for what gives us life and for the fragile world in which we live.
I think Prince Charles, when it comes to things he cares about the country. You know, he cares about the young. He cares about the environment. You know, these are big passions for him.
And in that time, we have helped over 1 million young people.
Everyone here has benefited from the breadth of your interests and from your vision, compassion, and leadership.
Unlike his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, Charles always knew he would one day become king. Becoming heir apparent at just 3 years old, Charles has become the oldest and longest-serving heir apparent in British history, as well as the longest-serving Prince of Wales, having held the title since 1958.
If later on I'm to be associated with all three services, it'd be a very good idea to do an attachment with each one. I think responsibility is the most important thing, is the actual trust that's put in you to deal with other people, and the feeling that they can perhaps put their trust in you as well.
In his own way, he has defined the role of heir apparent. He's been called a visionary in his creative and forward-thinking ideas, with his passions for the environment, for architecture, and for alternative medicine. In his many years of service to his country, he has undoubtedly earned his place and earned the respect and admiration of the people.
I found myself wondering in amazement at Shakespeare's insight into the mind of someone born into this kind of position. It is about the loneliness of high office, the responsibilities and stresses of public life and leadership.
Prince Charles is obviously, he's got his humour, but he's also got a compassionate side, and he always wants everyone to be happy. He wants everyone to enjoy what they're doing. He likes a happy work environment, so he wants to know that everyone's. And I don't just mean the staff. I'm talking about the families as well. I've seen how he will help people behind the scenes who have maybe got a problem, whether it be a personal thing, family thing, work thing. When he can, he gets involved. The things that he can do is amazing, and I say it's amazing because he's obviously involved in so many other huge things that are going on around the world or in the country, and yet he still takes time out to fix or to help with the little things.
The Prince of Wales has not had a life without challenges. The young prince suffered from bullying at school and bouts of homesickness as he was sent to Gordonstoun in Scotland, the alma mater of his father, Prince Philip, a school his father had hoped would make a man out of Charles and instill in him the qualities required in a young man who would one day be king. Challenges have also arisen from the reporting of the media, who've chosen to focus on the ups and downs of Charles's personal and romantic life. His days as the most eligible bachelor prince saw great speculation as to who his future wife might be. The eventual marriage to Lady Diana Spencer was just the fairy tale the world had been waiting for, a dashing prince with his blushing bride. As we now know, Charles and Diana's marriage was not a successful one. Whilst they built a family unit together with sons William and Harry, the relationship between Charles and Diana was not one destined to last. Charles later rekindled an old spark with former girlfriend Camilla Parker Bowles, much to the dismay and disapproval of royal courtiers. But they went on to marry, and their partnership has become widely accepted by the public. At long last, the interest and focus on Charles's love life began to dial down, so he could continue to pursue his passions with energy and enthusiasm. A significant moment in the prince's life was his investiture as Prince of Wales. As he was nearing the end of his education and becoming an adult, he would soon take a more active role within the royal family. Before the ceremony, Charles had left Cambridge University to spend a term at the University College of Wales at Aberystwyth.
At the main college building on the seafront, Prince Charles has done most of his work. In the language laboratory, he's spent an hour each day perfecting his Welsh grammar and pronunciation. His tutor is Mr. Edward Millward, a former vice president of the Welsh Nationalist Party.
Well, this has been a crash course. It's been only part of a crash course amongst other studies. And in the short time that he's been working, he's developed a very good accent, and I'm sure it's going to stand him in very good stead from now on.
Is he fluent in Welsh?
Within limits, yes, he is fluent within the limits of the lessons that he's learned, but he's not completely fluent, of course. If we had Prince Charles for a year here in Aberystwyth, there's no doubt in my mind that he would be completely fluent at the end of that year.
Mr. Millward, to what extent do you think Prince Charles has helped to popularise the Welsh language?
I've had letters from many people in Wales and from outside Wales. I've had letters from the United States of America, for example, from Welsh Americans who have Welsh predecessors, ancestors, and they want to learn Welsh as well. There seems to be a worldwide interest as well as a very keen and added interest in Wales today.
Carnarvon waits like a bride for her wedding, gaily dressed for the big moment, but anxious too that something could go wrong, though every precaution has been taken to make sure that it doesn't. As traffic jams block the town, army bomb disposal experts are on the alert. To prepare for the ceremony, 5 years local work has been crammed into 12 months. £5,000 worth of paint has been given away free, and all the shops in the town centre have been given a facelift. Along the side streets, which the Queen and Prince will never see, the bunting is out.
Although Charles had been Prince of Wales for some years, it wasn't until the 1st of July 1969 that he was invested by the Queen.
Every shop window proclaims the investiture, and every shopkeeper has been doing good business. Although there are 160 officially approved souvenirs, shoppers can choose among hundreds of other investiture trinkets. Carnarvon expects 250,000 people by Tuesday. Carnarvon has gone to a lot of trouble. Rates went up last year by 1 6pence. What kind of return can the town expect? I asked the mayor, Alderman Ivor Bowen Griffiths.
The return is that we've created this kind of spirit where we now have a people, I think, who will act as a pressure group on us councillors and tell us, look boys, you've started, you can't stop. You've started creating the new Carnarvon, carry on boys and create the new Carnarvon. This is what we want.
When the time came for his investiture, he pledged his allegiance to the Queen at Carnarvon Castle and made an address to the nation in Welsh. For the most part, the ceremony was very well received by the Welsh people. The monarch is head of the armed forces, and it has always been a great tradition of the royal family that each and every member should engage in active service and lead by example, playing more than just a symbolic role. Famously, the Queen was the first female member of the royal family to serve full-time on active service as a member of the ATS during World War II.
Is being treated just like any other trainee. Now visited by her parents and sister Margaret Rose at a training station in southern England, she shows them she knows a fan belt from a spark plug all right and isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. Her father gave her an officer's commission early in March. Papa and Mama seem to approve, too. Daughter is the first woman member of the royal family to join the services full-time.
Prince Philip, too, was an active member of the Royal Navy during World War II. So, for Charles, it was an important next step for him as heir to the throne and future head of the armed forces. During his time studying at Cambridge University, Charles received flying lessons from the RAF. He went on to RAF Cranwell in Lincolnshire to train as a jet pilot. Just as his great-grandfathers, his grandfather, and his father, he went on to pursue a naval career, taking on a 6-week course at the Royal Naval College in Dartmouth. Charles served on the guided missile destroyer HMS Norfolk, and then went on to serve on 2 frigates, the HMS Minerva from 1972 to 1973, and the HMS Jupiter in 1974.
In steaming heat, Prince Charles's frigate, HMS Minerva, edged her way into Nassau Harbour. A few minutes before, he had formally ended his duties as one of the ship's navigation officers and taken on the role again of His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales. with his personal standard broken from the mast. In the month that he's been with Minerva in the Caribbean, he several times visited the Bahamas Islands, but this was the first time he'd made an official visit. To get to Rawson's Place, where the welcome speeches would be made, the prince walked at speed through an aisle of shouting, yelling Bahamians, with security men running in front to clear a path for him. If it was all a bit confused, the prince showed no sign of being put out by it. The speeches were from a dais placed in front of the old Nassau landmark, the statue of the prince's great-great-great-grandmother, and were brief to the relief of those in full dress with the temperature in the 90s.
I'll be looking forward with eager anticipation to visiting Nassau.
There will be 5 days of ceremonial engagements before Prince Charles rejoins Minerva next Wednesday for 2 more months of Caribbean patrol as a naval lieutenant.
Prince Charles stepped out from the Fleet Air Arms headquarters at Yeovilton in Somerset today in perfect flying weather for his first hour's instruction at the controls of a Wessex Mark V helicopter. It's the start of a 3.5-month flying course, at the end of which he'll be qualified, like his father Prince Philip, to fly helicopters, including those belonging to the Queen's flight. With his instructor, Lieutenant Commander Alan McGregor, the Prince inspected the helicopter before climbing inside. He seemed already familiar with the controls and was relaxed and cheerful before this, his first dual-control training flight. After about 18 hours of instruction, Lieutenant the Prince of Wales, as he's officially known, will make his first solo flight. He'll also do mountain flying, armaments training, including the firing of guided missiles, and emergency escape drill from a cockpit that's immersed in water and turned upside down.
For the last 10 months of his active service in the Navy, on the 9th of February 1976, Charles took command of the coastal minehunter HMS Bronnington.
If later on I'm to be associated with all 3 services, it'd be a very good idea to do an attachment with each one. I think it gives one a very useful experience of responsibility and discipline. I think responsibility is the most important thing. Is the actual trust that's put in you to deal with other people, and the feeling that they can perhaps put their trust in you as well.
On the 11th of June 1977, when appointed Colonel-in-Chief of the Parachute Regiment, Charles asked to take part in the parachute training course. He felt he could not look them in the eye or wear the regiment's beret and wings badge unless he'd completed the course. Charles said, "I felt I should lead from the front, or at least be able to do some of the things that one expects others to do for the country."
It really is a great privilege to be with you today in my 40th year as your Colonel-in-Chief. When appointed to the position, I felt I couldn't look your predecessors in the eye or even dream of wearing the red beret without doing the parachute course. This threw the cat among the proverbial pigeons. But in the end, I was allowed to join parachute training course 841A at Bryce Norton.
On the 16th of June 2012, Charles was appointed the most senior ranks of Field Marshal, Admiral of the Fleet, and Marshal of the RAF in the 3 UK armed services. Family has always been very important to Charles. It was reported that he felt lonely as a young prince, and with his mother and father often otherwise engaged in the duties of a monarch, his childhood was anything but ordinary. When it came to his own family, Diana was well known to be a very hands-on mother, but Charles was a supportive parent too. After Diana's death, Charles had to step up and take more responsibility for William and Harry. Though the young princes were growing up and becoming more independent, it was undoubtedly a very challenging time for both of them. William and Harry have praised their father publicly, and it's clear he successfully set a strong example of the importance of hard work and generosity to others.
Some of my earliest memories relate to times that my parents spoke to me, or even better, showed me what it meant to have both privilege and responsibilities. From my father, I learned how central charity was to his life and his sense of purpose. The Prince's Trust is not an arm's length organisation for my father. He cares deeply about the Prince's Trust because it is a living projection of his values. As a young child, I recall evening after evening my father's diligence and compassion as he applied himself to answering thousands of letters and reading endless reports in order to stay on top of his ambition to do all he could to help the underprivileged. Without my realising it, what my parents were doing was instilling in me and Harry a lifelong habit to put charity at the heart of our lives.
Many of the issues William and I now work on are subjects we were introduced to by our father growing up. His passion and dedication are remarkable, and seeing so many of you here today, I cannot fail but to be in awe of the drive he has had for so many years to contribute to the enrichment of society both in this country and around the world. So, Pa, while I know that you've asked that today not be about you, you must forgive me if I don't listen to you, much like when I was younger. And instead, I ask everyone here to say a huge thank you to you for your incredible work over nearly 50 years.
His relationship with his mother and father, from my memories, was like any other kind of relationship with parents. You know, he was very obviously close to them, which we could see especially after losing his father.
And Prince Charles, from his home at Highgrove, paid his own tribute to the man he called my dear papa.
I particularly wanted to say that my father, I suppose the last 70 years, has given the most remarkable, devoted service to the Queen, to my family, and to the country, and also to the whole of the Commonwealth. And as you can imagine, my family and I missed my father enormously. He was a much-loved and appreciated figure. And apart from anything else, I can imagine, and we're so deeply touched by the number of other people here and elsewhere around the world in the Commonwealth who also, I think, share our loss and our sorrow. And my dear papa was a very special person who, I think, above all else, would have been amazed by the reaction and the touching things that have been said about him. And from that point of view, we are, my family, deeply grateful for all that. It will sustain us in this particular loss and at this particularly sad time. Thank you.
And with his mother, it's a wonderful relationship. It's again, we've seen that. You know, you see him, especially when he addresses him as mum, you know, just as mummy on the stage, on stages at different events and things. And that look in her eye when he says things.
Mummy. Coupled with your Majesty, I really am enormously grateful for your kind words and for allowing this party to take place here. I really am hugely touched that it's been possible to arrange something for all these, I think, wonderful organisations that I have been enormously proud to be a part of, either as president or patron or as a member or whatever.
Well, I mean, I remember at his wedding, his second wedding, and the Queen did this fantastic speech, and it was the same. You know, you can see there is a strong bond between the two of them. But obviously, it's changed over the years, and also it has to, because he's now. I mean, it's extraordinary when you think about it. I mean, technically, he's a man, a gentleman in his retirement years, and his mother is, you know, 25 odd years older than him, and still working, and he is also still working. So it's not like with other families when if your parents are still alive and you've kind of retired and you obviously see a lot of them. They don't really, because they still work. I think he sees more of his mother probably now than what they used to, because obviously she has slowed down. But they've got a very they've got a very strong bond, I think, between them.
One family relationship that has been of significant interest to the public is his bond with the Duke of Windsor, King Edward VIII, notoriously the king who was never crowned. It is unusual for a former king to get to meet a future king, as abdications are quite rare, but Charles gained much insight from his uncle about the role and responsibility of being king. Visiting him was said to be a turning point in the prince's life, realizing the demands of the role and what it means to be a king.
The original plan was for photographs to be taken of the visit towards its end, but it was then announced that on doctor's orders the Duke could not come outside, and indeed could not leave his sitting room on the first floor of the house. So it was the Duchess alone who bid the royal family farewell. This in itself was an historic moment. The first time the woman for whom King Edward VIII gave up the throne of England has been hostess to her niece by marriage, Queen Elizabeth. The visit began with tea, China tea from a silver-gilt tea service, and sandwiches. After half an hour, the Queen went up to the Duke's sitting room. He's been ordered to take as much rest and to move as little as possible, but he was up and dressed for this afternoon's meeting. The Duke, I gather, enjoyed the visit very much, and judging from the farewells, it was a very relaxed occasion with one notable formality. The Duchess curtsied to Her Majesty during the farewells.
Some little-known interests of the prince include painting and magic. Charles has been a keen painter for some time and had one of his watercolours displayed in the Royal Academy's 1987 summer exhibition. Whenever his schedule allows, the prince likes to paint the royal estates, as well as beautiful scenery when he's on his tours. Although he never sells his watercolours, he does sell prints of them in the shop at the Highgrove residence to help raise money for his charitable funds.
From the deck of the Britannia, he produced these watercolours. 5 years on, and this lithograph of Windsor Castle, with its discreet signature, is on sale for £2,600. Prince Charles says he's not under any delusion that his sketches represent great art, but they act as a photo album and mean a great deal to him. His first one-man show was held in Italy earlier in the year, upsetting many who thought he should have exhibited here. The president of the Royal Watercolour Society thinks the prince is a very talented amateur.
This is one of the paintings that I like most in the exhibition. It seems to me to have more meaning, and I feel it's very English. In fact, I feel that most of the best paintings are English and not Italian.
Prince Charles was to have been here for the opening, but his broken arm kept him away. Instead, he signed this poster with his left hand.
I think Prince Charles, when it comes to things he cares about the country. You know, he cares about the young. He cares about the environment. You know, these are big passions for him. And I think something that's very difficult for him, I'm convinced of it, is that when he becomes king, he's no longer Prince of Wales. And there isn't an automatic Prince of Wales. Prince William does not become Prince of Wales. It becomes dormant. And if you think what's all been built round this title for the Prince of Wales, all the organisations, the charities, everything that's built the Prince's Foundation, you know, all these things.
Prince Charles has been no stranger to hard work. In the reporting year 2017-18, he undertook over 600 engagements in the UK and around the world, which is not unusual for the future king's working year. He's visited 44 Commonwealth countries, many more than once, and has visited over 100 countries worldwide. Since leaving the armed forces, Charles has very carefully carved out his role as heir apparent, and it is clear he's not just been waiting for his next job.
It's all about timings. That's the important bit. That's what we were drummed into us, that whether it be meals, meetings, whatever it might be, you've got to make sure that things are done by a certain point so that he's able to then carry on doing his job, which has been the Prince of Wales.
Charles has taken his title as Prince of Wales very seriously, maintaining a close and enduring relationship with Wales. The Prince and Duchess visit Wales every summer for a busy week packed full of engagements, often linked with his charities. The Prince is always ready to get stuck in. So, on a visit to BBC Scotland, with his usual charm, the Prince of Wales became a weatherman for the day, presenting the forecast for some royal locations.
I'm delighted to say we've got a new member of our weather team tonight. Let me hand over to him now. Your Highness.
Well, it's an unsettled picture as we head towards the end of the week. This afternoon it'll be cold, wet and windy across most of Scotland. We're under the influence of low pressure, and this weather front pushing northwards is bringing cloud and outbreaks of rain. The rain, of course, will be heaviest over the borders and around Edinburgh, where it could lead to difficult conditions on the roads. In the west, rain will be lighter and patchier. There will maybe a few drier interludes over Dumfries House in Ayrshire. Aha! There'll be snow for the higher ground of the Highlands and Aberdeenshire. The potential for a few flurries over Balmoral, who the hell wrote this script, as the afternoon goes on. The best of the drier and brighter weather will, of course, be over the Northern Isles and the far north of the mainland. So, a little hazy sunshine for the Castle of May and Caithness, but a cold day everywhere with temperatures of just 8 Celsius and a brisk northeasterly wind. Thank God it isn't a bank holiday.
And Your Royal Highness, how do you feel he did?
I think he's a very good weather forecaster.
Yes,
yes, he's always been longing to do it. He watches it every night, and we've always thought he'd be rather good.
I never thought that at all.
Yes.
His official duties do not always run smoothly, however. When visiting Australia in January 1994, 2 shots from a starting pistol were fired at him on Australia Day by David Kang in protest at the treatment of several hundred Cambodian asylum seekers held in detention camps.
Darling Harbour brimmed with anticipation of what was to be the highlight of Australia Day celebrations. Prince Charles was about to present awards to the state's top HSC students, but before he could utter a word, chaos. Dignitaries assembled on the stage were the first to the Prince's rescue, with no less than the Premier, John Fay, and Australian of the Year, Ian Kiernan, tackling the man. The Prince was shielded by his personal bodyguard, who kicked a starter's pistol out of the man's hand.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everything is totally under control.
Unharmed, His Royal Highness remained remarkably composed, continuing his official duties as the man was taken away for questioning. Within 2 hours of the attack, Police Minister Terry Griffiths was playing it down.
Let's not dramatise it by suggesting that there was an attempted assassination. There was not. It was a stunt.
But the charges were serious. 23-year-old David Kang was taken to the Sydney Police Centre and charged with attacking an international protected person, threatening to attack him, common assault, affray, possession of a firearm and using a firearm. This morning, the Macquarie University student appeared in Central Local Court applying for bail. The court heard the attack on Prince Charles was deliberate and planned by Kang to the extent that he bought the pistol and secured an itinerary for the royal visit.
So when I created the Prince's Trust in 1976 to help improve the lives of disadvantaged young people, it was because I was so acutely aware of the challenges that they faced. And over the years, some of the challenges have changed, but the overall mission of giving people self-confidence, self-esteem, and better opportunities remains the same. And in that time, we have helped over 1 million young people. And I always used to get so annoyed that it hadn't got to 1 million long ago, because we had to keep counting people who were still going through the system, even though we were actually helping 50,000 people a year. I thought, I know my maths is bad, but... So we've helped over 1 million young people transform their lives, and the Prince's Trust now works in 18 countries across the Commonwealth and beyond.
In 1976, Charles founded the Prince's Trust, a charitable organisation to help vulnerable young people. Originally started using funds from his own Royal Navy severance pay, amounting to just over £7,000, the charity has gone on to help over 1 million people. It remains one of the biggest successes of his career as Prince of Wales.
you can't teach confidence. You have to give confidence to kids. This is really what the Prince's Trust is about, I think, at base level. It's about giving people the confidence to try something that their peer group might not think is cool or interesting, but if they think it's interesting, if they think it has value, then they should be given the confidence to go and do it. And it's about getting to these kids when they're in environments that aren't conducive to those sorts of things, and pulling them out of that environment and saying, now come over here, let's do this, because I can show you something that's better.
The charity helps those aged between 11 and 30 with issues such as homelessness, mental health problems, or trouble with the law. It's reached the far corners of the globe, helping over 1 million young people.
And how easy do you find it to empathise with people from completely different backgrounds to what you had growing up? To the youngsters?
I don't know. You ask them, I can or not.
No, you obviously do.
I just try and put myself in their position. Half the battle of communicating is actually listening.
Yeah.
But you want to be quite a good listener before you can actually do the communicating.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because only that way you pick up. So if you listen to what people are telling you, after a bit you get an idea of what problems they're contending with.
I would like to take this opportunity to say to you, Charles, how proud I am of everything you have accomplished with the Trust and the way you personally have inspired this organisation. It is a very great pleasure for me, therefore, to present a Royal Charter to the Prince's Trust in recognition of its outstanding achievements over nearly a quarter of a century.
None of this, after 40 years, and I hope we'll keep it going for a bit, would be possible. But I'm only as good as the people who do all the marvellous things around the country, all the fantastic staff, and all our young ambassadors and celebrity ambassadors and so many others. And I've said year after year just how proud I am of those young ambassadors and how they've totally changed their lives and now are doing all sorts of wonderful things. And as long as I've got a few marbles left remaining, I shall do my best to go on investing in the future of this remarkable country. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
There have been so many success stories from the Prince's Trust. One which may come as a surprise is Dynamo the Magician. The Prince's Trust saw his talent and helped him to realize his dream.
Like when I was trying to get, a business started, a magical business, 15 years ago almost, like it was unheard of, no one had lent me any money to kind of get it started. The only person who thought it was actually a viable idea, who told me to follow my dreams, was my grandpa. And everyone else just wanted me to get a proper job. My nana still does. She still wants me to get a proper job, but thankfully at the local youth club I used to go to, called Mappa, the guy who run the place was called Emil, and he introduced us to a guy called Tony, and Tony knew a guy called Prince Charles, and Prince Charles had this amazing trust where he got me a meeting, an interview with this panel of judges, so to speak. It was a cross between Dragon's Den and X Factor. I had to walk out there, perform my little heart out, and thankfully they loved what they saw and they liked the idea, so they gave me money so I could get a business startup loan to get a camcorder and a laptop. Prince Charles is really, really involved in this process, and he really does want to genuinely help people. You can feel it, in his energy, and it's because of that passion he puts in, but it brings out the passion in other people to want to be successful, and he really does kind of lift you up in that way. And yeah, I mean, who would have thought they'd ever give a couple of grand to a kid from Bradford, to try and bring, a magical career to life. So, if I can achieve this, with their help, then, then anything's possible.
It is a source of the most enormous pride to hear how the Prince's Trust's award winners have thrived despite all the dreadful difficulties they've faced. Each of the winners has overcome immense barriers, as we've heard, to get where they are now, and have shown the most impressive resolve.
it's totally useless for a lot of well-meaning people to wring their hands in conference and to point out the dangers of pollution or destruction of the countryside if no one is willing or capable of taking any action. The impassioned speeches will be so much effluent under the bridge unless it is followed by drastic political action. Well, sir, time is fast running out, and it remains to be seen whether those in political authority can shoulder their responsibilities in time and act quickly enough to relieve a situation which grows more serious every day.
Charles's father, Prince Philip, was a keen environmentalist. His activism saved a species from extinction and raised unparalleled awareness of the blight of environmental pollution. Inspired by his father's mission, Prince Charles too has dedicated himself to protecting our environment. Charles first spoke publicly about his concerns with the current environmental situation in terms of pollution and use of plastics in 1970, and had frequently been ridiculed for his opinions and interests, which he's now praised for and believed to have been forward-thinking.
Ladies and gentlemen, the battle against climate change is surely the most defining and pivotal challenge of our times. Even in a world full of daunting perils and crises, it is hard to imagine anything that poses a greater challenge and opportunity for humanity. We are running out of time. How many times have I found myself saying this over recent years? We cannot delay, regroup, prevaricate, or wait for more and better information. We should compare the planet under threat of climate change to a sick patient. No doctor would wait for 100% certainty while a dying patient slipped away. We cannot ignore the symptoms and should act now to restore the health of the planet before it is too late. This, of course, will require an unprecedented transformation of our communities, societies, and lifestyles, all predicated on the move to a low-carbon and circular economy. The good news is that we know what we need to do. Many of the solutions are in our grasp. We just need to act effectively, and we need to do it now.
The Queen herself has acknowledged the great impact of the work carried out by Prince Philip, Prince Charles, and Prince William in environmental causes and climate change.
This is a duty I'm especially happy to discharge, as the impact of the environment on human progress was a subject close to the heart of my dear late husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. I remember well that in 1969, he told an academic gathering, "If the world pollution situation is not critical at the moment, it is as certain as anything can be that the situation will become increasingly intolerable within a very short time. It is a source of great pride to me that the leading role my husband played in encouraging people to protect our fragile planet lives on through the work of our eldest son, Charles, and his eldest son, William. I could not be more proud of them."
Organic farming is a great passion for the Prince. As a farmer himself, he cares deeply about the agricultural community. As the Duke of Cornwall, he manages the Duchy of Cornwall and has founded the Duchy Originals brand to show there is a market for organic and sustainably produced food. This brand operates separately from the Duchy of Cornwall, and all profits are used in the Prince of Wales's charitable fund.
The architecture of a country is determined ultimately by the people who pay for it, but it should be sure to celebrate more than just economic values. There does seem precious little room in our present way of doing things for the timeless values to reappear. We might begin by paying more attention to those we build for. I'm not arguing for a return to the age of faith, which gave us our great cathedrals, but I would hope that we might strive for an age of reverence. Reverence for what gives us life and for the fragile world in which we live.
Famously, one of the prince's interests has always been in architecture, and he's not been shy to share his feelings on the matter.
Instead of designing an extension to the elegant facade of the National Gallery, which complements it and continues the concept of columns and domes, it looks as if we may be presented with a kind of vast municipal fire station, complete with a sort of tower that contains the sun. I would understand better this type of high-tech approach if you demolished the whole of Trafalgar Square and started again, with a single architect responsible for the entire layout. But what is proposed seems to me like a monstrous carbuncle on the face of a much loved and elegant phrase.
One of his more ambitious projects was Poundbury, an urban extension on the historic county town of Dorchester, designed and built by the Prince and his team of architects. Importantly, within this experimental town, Charles wanted to keep traditional local character in the buildings and integrate affordable housing. He also wanted it to be a walkable community in the hopes of reducing pollution. Work began in October 1993 and is due to be completed in 2026, but already a large community is living and working in Poundbury and has been recognised as a success.
To the west of Dorchester, on 450 acres of agricultural land, is where the Prince of Wales plans to build urban villages in which he hopes people will want to live and work. Dorchester needs more housing. Outline planning permission for the first phase has already been granted. The rugby club is currently being built. But as the model shows, within 10 years, the area will have been transformed into a self-contained village with its own shops, schools, offices and recreation facilities. The clock tower and the central square form the heart of the village, with roads radiating out from the centre. No building is over 3 stories high and everything is in walking distance. This is the market, this the library. Early designs show the kind of classic architecture which Prince Charles loves, though some say it's more like Italy than Dorset. Leon Creer designed the master plan. He accompanied the Prince of Wales when he made a surprise visit to Dorchester today. Prince Charles wants local people fully involved.
But it seems to me the important thing is to be able to have houses that are at affordable rents.
Yeah.
Whether they're called council houses or they're available from housing associations or whatever. I mean, that seems to me is how to ensure that those houses go on being available and aren't just sold on.
Over the weekend, the people are being asked what they want.
It'll be interesting to see what the result is.
What if the people don't like what they see?
I knew you were going to ask that.
What's the answer?
No, I know. Well, I mean, I think at the moment, as far as I can make out, there's a considerable amount of goodwill about the ideas that they've already heard. I mean, obviously they won't like some things, but I think that half the battle of this sort of exercise is that it's not only participatory and consultative, but it's also educative. Because one of the things I feel is that we've got so used over the last 40 or 50 years to looking at planning and building and design, local and urban design, in one particular way. Like you only build housing estates, which always have cul-de-sacs. The point I feel we ought to re-examine again is how to design on a traditional basis again.
The Prince regularly visits Poundbury, attending openings and getting to know the locals as the community has begun to build and the local economy has started to grow.
He was here when the factory was very first built last time. Yeah, we've seen you a couple of times now, yeah. But we've only got... I hope so. I think we have 5 now which were here when the factory was originally built, which we've got built here. So they're still done exactly the same way as we did years and years ago.
Prince Charles had a close relationship with his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. So it came as no surprise when he wanted to name the main focal point of the town Queen Mother Square, which the Queen came to open, and she unveiled a statue of the late Queen Mother. In recognition of his tremendous service, the Prince has won numerous awards, many for his efforts as an environmentalist, including awards in organic farming conservation, ecology, climate change and architecture, as well as awards in contemporary art. In September 2018, His Royal Highness received a special Lifetime Achievement Award from GQ magazine for services to philanthropy. One of the gems of the Queen's reign is her involvement in and support of the Commonwealth, of which she's head, an important role also fulfilled by her late father. However, it is not a hereditary position. Prince Charles has shown his dedication to the Commonwealth cause for many decades, and in an important speech in 2018, the Queen expressed her wish that he'll follow in her footsteps.
I remember my own lifelong commitment, made in South Africa in 1947 at the age of 21. It is my sincere wish that the Commonwealth will continue to offer stability and continuity for future generations, and will decide that one day the Prince of Wales should carry on the important work started by my father in 1949.
Shortly after, the members of the Commonwealth unanimously agreed that Charles will take on that position. His mother, the Queen, is clearly proud of her son. In a speech at Charles's 70th birthday, she said, quite touchingly, with her usual wit, "This toast is to wish a happy birthday to my son, in every respect a duchy original. To you, Charles, to the Prince of Wales." As the longest-serving heir to the throne in British history, Charles has had plenty of time to build and develop the role of Prince of Wales. He's focused on helping others and bettering the world around him for future generations, as a leading voice in environmental causes, arts and culture, and architecture. There is no doubt of his ability to step into his mother's shoes when the time comes. Whether he'll be King Charles, Philip, Arthur, or George, he has not simply waited for his time as king, he has demonstrated through his hard work and great character the makings of a true king.